Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast presented by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar-Greaves Insurance are the best people in the business to work with. So visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday evening show. We are in prime time because the 2025 NFL schedule for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers has just dropped. It is out, and we're going to break it all down right here, right now. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. And Scott, we knew who they were playing, but now we know when and at what time and how many primetime games that there are. So the Bucs schedule is out.
It is. It's only fitting that we're in primetime, too, to talk about it. And the Buccaneers do have 4 primetime games. Let's just quickly get to those because those are the games that everybody can see across the country. And you don't need, I don't think they have Dish Network anymore, but, the YouTube streaming and all of that. The Buccaneers have 4 primetime games this year. And I think that works to their advantage, Matt. There's 3 of those games are going to be on Monday night or Sunday Night Football, and they're on the road. The first 3 games, week 2 at Houston, week 7 at Detroit. Those 2 games are Monday Night Football, and then week 12 will be Sunday Night Football out in L.A. I told you in yesterday's podcast that did not think the Bucs would be playing on Thanksgiving, and that proved to be correct. So just wanted to throw that out there. Had it on a very good source that was not going to be the case. So, they're in prime time out in L.A., but not on Thanksgiving, on the Sunday prior to Thanksgiving. And then the Buccaneers do have a primetime game on Thursday Night Football versus the Falcons. And it's interesting, Matt, because they start in week 1 against the Falcons. And this is going to be a very interesting kickoff to the season. But let's put the schedule up for everybody to take a look at. And we'll kind of give our initial thoughts. What jumps out to you initially here, Matt?
So my initial thoughts is that it's kind of similar to the year before, where it's a little bit of I don't want to say a rocky road, but a little bit of some challenges up until the bye week. And then there is an initial toughness out of the bye with, we'll see how New England is, but Buffalo and the Rams. But after that, it's kind of smooth sailing towards the end of the schedule. So once again, a little bit of a test early on for the Bucs. But if they come out of the bye week or go into the bye week with more wins than losses, they can kind of navigate the final month of the year and get themselves ready for a postseason push.
Yeah, the interesting thing, too, is they start at Atlanta. Todd Bowles is undefeated in season openers as the head coach of the Buccaneers. He's won all 3. And we'll see if that continues. I think the interesting thing here, Matt, is the Falcons will have young Michael Penix making a start, right? And this would be his first go against Todd Bowles in this defense. And I think part of the reason why the Bucs have fared well in their season openers is because Bowles has so much time to prepare. And he has some game film now, enough of kind of a beat on Michael Penix that I think it works in his favor. And it's not to say that Michael Penix is not going to improve this offseason and during training camp. I think he will. The other factor is you look at the first-round picks for the Falcons, Jalen Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia, and then they traded up in the first round to get James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. You kind of expect those first-rounders to start, right? Well, who are the first opponents going to be, Matt, for James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker?
That's Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke, 2 of the best in the business to do it at their positions.
That's a tall order right there, right?
Yeah.
And listen, the Buccaneers are going to have revenge on their mind. This was, a game that they should have won in Atlanta last year. Logan Hall sacked Kirk Cousins twice. The good news is Kirk Cousins probably won't be the starter unless something happens to Penix in that opener, because he had the Buccaneers number, whether it was in Atlanta on Thursday Night Football in that overtime win, or whether it was ruining another creamsicle game for the Buccaneers, right? And we all remember what happened the last time the Buccaneers were in Atlanta. That face mask call that didn't get called. Really cost the Buccaneers an opportunity. They were in field goal range. They could have extended their lead late in the fourth quarter. and that was a bit of a disaster. So I feel pretty good about where the Bucs play the Falcons. And then remember last year, Matt, they played the Falcons so close, kind of like almost back to back, it seemed. And then they didn't have a chance to really catch up and get a win over the Falcons to knock them off their perch as the NFC South frontrunners. They had to wait for the Falcons to falcon, which they did. The Bucs went on their own run. That's how they're able to win the division. Now, the Buccaneers will play the Falcons in week 1 in Atlanta, and then all the way in week 15. When they play on Thursday Night Football in Tampa Bay.
And that's a home game for Tampa Bay with the Thursday night one, which last year it was the other way around. So I'm with you on the idea of playing against a young Michael Penix and 2 first-round picks that will be playing right away early in the season before they have time to really get acclimated and go and make a name for themselves. And that goes for everyone involved, even with Penix in year 2, because he only had a couple of starts. And then to have the advantage of, because Thursday night games, listen, it is what it is. It's a sloppy game. Players aren't playing to their absolute best because they just played the week before or a couple of days before. So to get that home game against Atlanta, and that could be the type of game that really separates Tampa Bay from the rest of the division. It's also interesting that they play Carolina the following week in week 16, and then also end the season against Carolina, that second game being a home game. Because if we think Carolina is going to make a little bit more of a push than they did last year, we talked about Carolina potentially competing with Atlanta for the second spot.
Yeah.
But it could be a situation where the Bucs beat Atlanta in that Thursday night game, but they really have to seal the division by beating Carolina the following week on the road. And also, Greg Allman brought up a good point too, that not that cold weather is the end all be all, but a lot of warm weather situations that last month of the season. So Bucs don't really have to worry about the weather too much. It's more other teams coming to Tampa dealing with that weather early in the season.
Yeah, and you look at that Buffalo Bills game, right? That's probably the game that is going to be maybe the coldest weather, right? I mean, that's on November 16th. And it could be 40, 50 degrees, or it could be snowing in November in upstate New York. You just don't know. But outside of that, there really is not any other chance for cold weather games. I mean, you've got 3 home games with the Arizona Cardinals, the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons for Tampa Bay. And then they end at Carolina. I suppose on the 21st, it might be snowing. There is a chance. It does do that occasionally in North Carolina. In December, usually it's maybe January where they get their cold weather, but that would be the other option right there. But it's not going to be snowing in Miami. We know that. And it's really interesting how this schedule is from week 14 all the way through the end of the season. It's, NFC South Saints, NFC South Falcons, NFC South Panthers, AFC East Miami, and then NFC South Carolina to end it. You have this massive stretch of tight division games. Then there's like that little break, reprieve, whatever you want to call it, against the Dolphins, in week 17. So it's a very interesting schedule, but I like it. I like the fact the bye week happens in week 9.
Exactly. You're pretty much right there, smack dab in the middle. But then also that last month of the season, you're going to have more tired players, just naturally how it is with all the collisions that go on. There is very little travel for Tampa Bay late then and there. You talk about all the divisional games, but some of them are home. Those last 2 games that they're traveling to Carolina, that's a quick flight. That's like an hour and a half. And then even closer with Miami, unless they drive down there, but I doubt it. Yeah. So the lack of travel that last month, I think, will really help. What's interesting is they do go. It's funny, they play a West Coast team going to Seattle and then play a West Coast team, but in Tampa with the San Francisco 49ers. But that beginning part of the schedule, divisional games are always interesting. I think we're all going to be picking the Bucs to beat Atlanta, and they should beat the Jets in week 3, the home opener. But Houston and Philadelphia, those are 2 interesting early games. And then Seattle, who knows how they're going to look,
Yeah.
with Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback,
Right.
San Francisco as well. No more Deebo Samuel, but if Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, they re-sign Kittle or sign him to a new deal. And the 49ers have been the bugaboo of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's why, and Detroit, obviously, I mean, that's going to be an absolute slugfest. That's probably the most exciting primetime game that the Bucs have. I mean, Rams, too. We can make an argument for any primetime game.
It's interesting because these games here, right? The Monday night games, you've got one on ABC, and that's a 7 p.m. start, and then one on ESPN, and that's a 7 p.m. start. And then the NBC Sunday night game against the Rams is 8:20. And then, of course, the Thursday night game against the Falcons, that's on Amazon Prime, that's 8:15. So you have some primetime games, but they're starting early. And you have to wonder, is that part of a doubleheader on those particular Mondays?
Probably the 7 o'clock game. Yeah. That would make sense for those.
Yeah. Well, and there's two of those. Both of those, the Lions game and the Texans game, are both 7 o'clock Eastern time. So that's just an interesting observation there. But when you look at you mentioned the Texans, I hate to bring up a sore subject, but
I know
it didn't work out really well the last time they were in Houston, right? So this is a little bit of a double whammy here because you have to kind of exercise some demons. That was C.J. Stroud getting hit by Shaq Barrett, but it didn't matter because he threw for 470 yards, an NFL rookie record against Todd Bowles and his defense. Remember, Carlton Davis was just like nowhere to be found that game. He was giving up touchdowns left and right. Easily his worst game, I think, as a Buccaneer, and including the game-winning touchdown to Tank Dell. Tank Dell's not going to be on the field, certainly in week 2. But they did draft a pair of Iowa State wide receivers in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. We saw both those guys at the Senior Bowl. And, of course, they still have Nico Collins, who's dangerous as well. But 5 touchdowns, including the game winner by C.J. Stroud. So Tampa Bay will really have to kind of shake off that primetime curse, right? Because that was a shootout type game. And I think the Buccaneers offense is going to have to be ready to light the scoreboard up again because, C.J. Stroud, I think, is looking to have more of a bounce back season. And he's got some more weapons to work with now. And so that's the first of the 4 primetime games. Remember, the Bucs were 0-4 last year in the regular season in primetime. If they're going to do anything, Matt, if this team is going to do anything in the postseason whatsoever, they've got to, I think, probably at least go 2-2 in these games. They just have to make playing in primetime a non-factor, right? If you go there and you beat Houston in week 2, let's say you go up to Detroit and you lose. And let's say you go to the Rams, West Coast, and you lose. The Rams and the Lions, I think, are going to be good teams this year, right? And then you come back and you beat the Falcons. If you're 2-2 in primetime, I don't think the primetime jinx is a factor anymore, right? But if you go 0 for last year, really 5 games, including that wild card loss to the Commanders, then you lose all 4 here, then all of a sudden that becomes a mental block and it starts to creep in. And I don't care if you win the division and you have that home playoff game. At that point, you probably have to hope that you have a Saturday or Sunday day game rather than a night game, right? Because
you need that Saturday 1 o'clock game.
Because the last 3 Buccaneer playoff games have been at night, right? The Cowboys lost Tom Brady's last game. The Philadelphia Eagles win at home against the wild card. And then, they ended up losing at night to the Detroit Lions. And then last year losing to the Commanders at night.
Yeah, in my opinion, because, I mean, if you want to go back to the 2020 season with BA and Tom Brady, they didn't play well in primetime either. And it took them that late winning streak. And then they turn out being fine in primetime itself. So, but this is a completely different team, different quarterback, a completely different defense, or at least for this upcoming season. But it will be interesting. It's going to be a good test for this new look pass rush with Hassan Reddick in that first primetime game against the Houston Texans.
I agree.
The Texans didn't have, C.J. Stroud was running for his life last year. And I think they tried to address the offensive line. We'll kind of see how that goes. But and this is what I talked about yesterday, where the NFC South doesn't get any respect, and I understandably so.
Yeah.
But this is here the Bucs have to, grab the division and just grab it by the throat and annihilate the division and make sure that no stone is unturned and that this team is ready to go and be respected by the rest of the league. And the way they can go about that, I mean, it'd be crazy if they went 3-0 in these primetime games heading into the Thursday night game against Atlanta. But they can get an early win against Houston. So everyone's thinking, oh, all right, the Bucs, nice win. But then there'll be some people that are like, oh, well, the Texans don't have all their receivers and blah, blah, blah. But if they can if they beat Houston and can split with Detroit and with LA, I think that will just bring echoes of how good this team can be. Because, I mean, we saw them lose in primetime to a lowly Cowboys team. Yeah. So maybe they just play bad against bad teams in primetime and they can go and defeat the best teams in primetime. And I know it didn't work with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens last year. But I like that they're playing the best of the best really in primetime. I mean, outside of that Bills game, these are all games that everybody is going to be watching. I'm also a little surprised Bucs-Bills. I mean, I don't know the rest of the schedule that week in the NFL. But Bucs-Bills seems like that would be, if it is going to be a regular Sunday game, make that like a 4:00 game with two pretty good teams. But again, it depends on who else is playing.
Matt, you mentioned earlier, Hassan Reddick, right?
Yeah.
And as Steven Stansfield points out here, Hassan Reddick is going to be playing both of the teams that he has played in most recently. Matter of fact, Hassan Reddick, you look at the schedule, every team he's ever played for, you're exactly right. The Cardinals are on there. They drafted him. He played 1 year for the Panthers. They're on there twice. But then right off the back in back-to-back games, the Jets and the Eagles, is this kind of a revenge game?
It has to be
for Hassan Reddick for both of those games, because the Jets didn't give him the money that he wanted. And really neither did the Eagles. They traded him to the Jets because they didn't give him the money, right? So I think you're going to see a very motivated Hassan Reddick here in the first two games of, the back-to-back games.
First month of the season, yeah.
First month of the season, right?
No, for sure. I mean, look what Larry Foote said literally yesterday. He's pissed off. He wants to prove that he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's got a chip on his shoulder. And he has every right to be angry with both teams. I mean, the Eagles, no offense to Hassan Reddick, but they were kind of right. They're like, we don't want to pay you. We can kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, they won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
And if you're Hassan Reddick, you got to be seething. The fact they traded you after almost winning a Super Bowl, and then they win the Super Bowl a year later, that's got to be absolutely aggravating. And then everything that went on with the Jets last year, sitting out of training camp, not playing until the last week of October, only getting one sack, a terrible team, a team in disarray. I mean, part of him's got to be like, thank God I got out of there. I'm in a much better situation. But it will be interesting because, as you mentioned, Todd Bowles is undefeated as the Bucs head coach in the start of the regular season in the first week of the season. They've also started out 2-0 the past couple of years and then stubbed their toe in week 3.
I know.
I'm not saying that the Jets are going to be formidable or anything, but let's remember, we were all like, oh my goodness, the Bucs beat the Lions in week 2. Now they're going to absolutely stomp on the Denver Broncos.
That didn't happen.
And that did not happen. Now, I'm not saying watch out for the New York Jets. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that it's any given Sunday. The Bucs can't expect to beat anybody. And this is also a Jets team where we don't really know what's going on at the moment.
It's right.
A new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new GM, and new quarterback with Justin Fields. Now, what's funny is the last time Justin Fields
Matt, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. You just made some fantastic points. And I'm not saying that the Jets can be or will be the Washington Commanders, right? And they caught the Commanders early, right? But look what the Commanders turned into.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to stop you there because I think your point was spot on. We just don't know. And sometimes, there's always a Cinderella story. There's always a team that just comes out of nowhere. Last year was obviously the Commanders. They got their act together after the week 1 loss at Tampa and really didn't look back. But that's a great point. You also mentioned their new quarterback up there in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So the last time Justin Fields, I believe, played against the Bucs was when Shaq Barrett had the pick 6 against the Bears a couple seasons ago in 2023. But my point being is that I don't know how much we can take from what the Jets did last year because Justin Fields is in his first year with the Jets. He's actually reunited with Garrett Wilson, who they played together at Ohio State. So for the Bucs, just don't get into a Broncos situation once again. Because also, the Jets start their season, they play against the Steelers, which could be their own revenge game, Jets against Aaron Rodgers if he goes against the Steelers. And then I believe they play the Bills in week 2. So you're looking at a Jets team that could be 0-2 and desperate going into week 3. I believe they have 2 home games as well. A desperate team coming into Tampa with the Bucs, hopefully 2-0, but at least feeling better about their overall outlook. And then I also look at teams like the Cardinals, where they were pretty bad last year.
Yeah.
But if they figure it out, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. going into year 2, Kyler Murray can be great, but it also look ridiculous at times. If the Cardinals figure it out and put it together, well, then that makes coming out of the bye that much more difficult. Because I don't know what to make of the Patriots, but now with Mike Vrabel, who's an established head coach, Drake May didn't look too bad as a rookie. Obviously, we know Buffalo and LA, but if the Cardinals become a contender in their own division in the NFC West,
and it's always kind of tight out there too, you know,
that makes Bills, Rams, Cardinals a little bit more of a tough tunnel to go through. Yeah, obviously that last month is still kind of easy. But
I think you're right. Our schedule analysis is going to continue, but we have some super chats lined up, so let's get to these real quick here. Tommy Leverone, we really appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support here on the show. Let's go to SRQ Salt $4.99, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Says Bucs are the only NFL team to start 2-0 in the last 3 seasons. They do it again in 2025 with 2 road games, and they are in a great position early. Yeah, totally agree with that. If they can win 2 on the road, and then their home schedule, again, everything I said about the Jets, it still should be a winnable game. Yeah. Their home schedule looks pretty good on paper, with the Eagles being one of the toughest teams, but we know how the Bucs have played against the Eagles as of late. And I think the home schedule gets easier the later the schedule gets going. So even if there's some hiccups earlier on the home schedule, they're going to smooth it out by the time they get to, play Carolina to end the season.
Yeah. And here's Tommy Leverone with his super chat. We appreciate both of those.
Thank you,
I don't think you typed it in the first time, but here you go. Hi, guys. Week 3 Rays are a home game. Is there any way that Major League Baseball can move the Rays game to avoid a traffic nightmare? Are you surprised the Bucs are home in week 3? Now, if you're not in the Tampa Bay area or you don't follow the Rays, a little bit of a news flash. You probably saw that the Rays Tropicana Field got demolished by a hurricane in late October last year. And so they're actually playing across the street. And if you've been to Raymond James Stadium, you know that the Yankees Legends Field is right there across the street. And the Yankees and right now the Rays are using part of the Bucs parking lot for that game. So it seems to me that of course the NFL knew about this, and it has to happen, I think, where because they essentially share the same parking lot, they're going to have to move that game and probably make it a night game, is my guess. And I'm not saying the Buccaneers, I'm saying the Rays.
Right. Football takes a little
but you can't have both of those games, which are afternoon games, occurring at the same time. It will be a traffic nightmare, and there simply won't be enough parking. And, of course, the Buccaneers would not allow the Rays fans to park in the parking lot on a Bucs game day at the same time that a game is happening. Now, they might say, hey, we'll start clearing out our lot, and if you have like a night game, then that's fine. But it would be a disaster. So I think this might be the NFL just saying, hey, listen, we're the league and you're not Major League Baseball. And we're the Buccaneers and you're not, the Rays. So we're going to put this game in Tampa regardless, and you're going to have to deal with it. So, it kind of stinks for the Rays, but at the same time, Matt, I'm not a big baseball fan, so I'm not crying about it, but there's 17 games in football, and there's 2,000 games in a baseball season.
Yeah,
I'm exaggerating. It's like
162.
And 162.
I think part of the obstacle too is, I'm sure, I don't exactly know the mathematics that get involved with coming up with the schedule, but I don't think when they were coming up with the Bucs schedule, they had planned for, the Rays weren't going to be able to play in St. Pete because of the hurricane, so now they're right next door. It's also insane too, because if they did do it at the same time, you have the Bucs playing the Jets, so you're going to have a bunch of New Yorkers at the
Right.
game, and the Rays are playing the Red Sox. So you're gonna have all these people from Boston. So just tons of loudmouth
Northerners.
Yeah, Northerners just going insane. I wonder if the Rays could like play a doubleheader on Saturday or something and just kind of avoid it.
Yeah, that seems more logical, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like that's more logical. And I'm sure the city of Tampa would have to step in and say, "Hey, listen, we're not doing this. We have traffic cops that we can't handle."
I don't even know where people would park, like for a Rays game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah,
it would be a disaster. So they're going to do something about it. And again, the NFL is flexing their muscles, like Bucky Irving is right here saying, "Hey, we're putting the Bucs in Week 3, and you can deal with it." Major League Baseball.
Jonas Correa, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, "Wait, they play the Bills in the preseason and regular season? When was the last time that happened?"
I don't know. It's happened before.
Yeah, it's happened before.
Yeah.
I want to say it's happened with like the Dolphins. Or
Exactly. Yeah, it's the Dolphins or Jaguars. It might have been the Jaguars a couple of years ago. Remember when the Jaguars played on
it was like Christmas Eve. Yeah. Because the whole storyline is like, is Trevor Lawrence going to play? And then he did.
Yeah.
And the Bucs annihilated him.
Right, and I think they might have played in the preseason that year. I could be wrong, but. Listen, I've been doing this for 30 years. I guarantee you it's happened before. It's rare when it does happen. But listen, this is an AFC and an NFC, and preseason games are vanilla anyways. So listen, so much is going to change. It's not like they're playing the Bills in week 1 of the preseason and then week 2 of the regular season, like within the same month, right? So you're not going to have that close of a stretch here. So let's count the weeks. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 12 games. That's not including the bye week that is also there, and then the bye week between the preseason and the regular season start. So, I mean, you're talking months later.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a completely different Bills team. I got a news flash for you. We're not going to see, but maybe for a series, Baker Mayfield, and maybe for a series, Josh Allen, if he plays at all in that game. So, that's the third preseason game. There's not going to be a lot of lean from that. It's not going to be an advantage to the Bills or the Bucs having played those guys in the preseason. It is what it is. It's vanilla playbook and script and all that stuff. And I thought Zion McCollum was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that too.
Yeah. Share with our audience what he said about.
So we had Zion on Zion McCollum, starting corner of the Bucs, on recently last week, and it was actually a fan question, just asking like, what are we going to see from the defense in the preseason? And he said, you're going to see vanilla coverage. You're going to see a lot of man to man. It's just a lot of Coach Bowles wanted to see who can cover man to man and who can, play in the defense. You're not even really going to see Zion, or Lord knows you're not going to see Jamel Dean with his injury history.
Right.
And so you see a lot of rookies, a lot of the guys trying to fight for the last couple of spots on the rosters. So I wouldn't worry too much about the Bills preseason game. I mean, I doubt they're going to do a joint training camp practice with them specifically, just based on playing them later on in the season. And you know what? I saw some people saying like, well, what if it snows? Well, the Bucs have a pretty good damn running game. So if they have to play in the snow where they got to run it a lot, I feel pretty good about Bucs.
Yeah. It seems to me if they're going to do a joint practice, might be the Steelers game in Pittsburgh, or it might be the Tennessee game in the first one here. I think either one of those games. And listen, Cam Ward, we'll see his first snaps against the Tampa Bay defense, the number 1 overall pick. So that'll be interesting to see. And he'll be down here in Tampa for that game. So let's kind of get back to looking at the schedule here. I'm with you, Matt. I don't think that this Philadelphia Eagles team scares the Buccaneers. They've beaten them enough times, whether it was in that playoff game, right, in 2021, they received Winfield sacking Jalen Hurts, whether it was last year in that brutally hot game where they, contained Saquon Barkley enough, beating him 33-16. They drubbed him in the wild card game. So I'm not saying that they're going to win. This is not like an automatic win for Tampa Bay, but they're just not afraid. I think they match up really well against the Eagles. And we'll see if everyone's dream comes true. And if Desmond Watson makes the practice squad and gets the game day activation to help stop the tush push, man.
This is an interesting one as well for so many reasons. And yes, the Bucs have beaten the Eagles twice, but that last game, they did not have either of their starting wide receivers.
Yeah.
But looking at the Eagles' schedule real quick, so they obviously start the season because they were the Super Bowl champs on Thursday night playing the Cowboys. But then they go up against the Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch in Arrowhead. And then they host the Rams in week 3, who the Rams were the closest team to beating the Eagles in the postseason. If you look at all the Eagles playoff games. So, yeah, they're the champs. Everyone's going to give them their toughest shot. But the Eagles specifically have a lot of emotional games early on in that season where the Chiefs and the Rams might be doing the Bucs a little bit of a favor by kind of giving them a lot of body blows and really trying to soften up the Eagles, whether win, lose, or draw, until the time that they go and play the Bucs in week 4. So I love that they're going to have them at 1 o'clock. The scorching heat. I mean, wasn't it the Eagles back in the day when O.J. Howard, I believe when he was a rookie, at that big time catch and run? Something about playing the Eagles at 1 o'clock. I think that was after the Eagles won their last Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Something about the Bucs and the Eagles at 1 o'clock tends to work pretty good for this team.
Yeah, and obviously the Commanders aren't on the schedule this year for the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
But I know fans love to see the primetime games, right? And the Bucs have 4 of them this year. 3 of them are on the road. 1 of them is at home, the Thursday night game against the Falcons. When you look at the Commanders' schedule, and I'm just going to read it to you because I don't have a graphic. They play in week 2, Thursday night football against the Green Bay Packers. Then they've got, that's 1 primetime game. Then they have a Monday night game against the Bears. They have a Monday night game against the Chiefs. They have a Sunday night football game against the Seahawks. They have another Sunday night game against the Broncos. They've got an international game against the Dolphins. That's going to be over there in Madrid, and that's at a funky time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, right in the morning. So that's 6. Then you've got a game that I probably would guess is on going to be on one of the Saturday games in Week 18. Commanders Eagles seems like the winner that's going to probably win the division. Oh, and by the way, they're also playing on Christmas against the Cowboys. That's 8 nationally televised games, not all in prime time, because you look at that game in Spain against the Dolphins. But Matt, I mean, for a young team with a young quarterback, that's a heavy load of just jumbled schedule. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Sunday night, Christmas night. I mean, that's a lot for the Commanders. And the Buccaneers didn't handle preseason or the primetime games very well. If you ask all of the Tampa Bay players, they're going to be like Larry Foote. Let's have all of our games at 1 o'clock. Let's wake up, play football. Right? That's just how it is.
Right.
That's how it is. They love 1 o'clock games.
Yeah, because that's been the knock for the Bucs, is part of why they've lost these night games is because they're just waiting around the whole time, and they want to go and win. So it feels like Washington. They obviously have a great offense. Jaden Daniels, he's a star. I get why they're putting them on so much, prime time.
Yeah,
but they want the Commanders to be like what the Lions are. And I don't know if Washington has the defense to do so. But Bucks Basement has a $5 super chat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Says, a brutal schedule. Bowles better step it up or fans will be calling for his head by midseason if we don't improve from last season. Bowles needs to go. I wouldn't call it a brutal schedule. I think there are some pockets where, because let's face it, the last 2 years, a big knock on Todd Bowles has been the 4-game losing streak. Like, the 3-game winning streak is great, but if you immediately match that with a 3-4-game losing streak, that doesn't really help.
Negates it, yeah.
So again, like, if they could beat Houston, they should beat the Jets. But if they lose to Houston, then it wouldn't all be in a row. But then the Eagles becomes that much more important. Same thing with the Seahawks, and then the Lions a couple of weeks later. New England, I'm not ruling them out as like a team that's just going to be an easy win by any means. But New England, Buffalo, LA, and the Cardinals could be another little area where there is that losing streak. I'm not saying it's going to be 4 in a row, But those are the two kind of little slates where I have my eye on of watch out because we can't let that slide happen.
Yeah, and going back to, we're just kind of going down the stretch here. I'm with you, Matt. I have no idea what to expect with Seattle, right? I just don't.
Sam Darnold.
Yep.
I mean, we saw him on the Panthers. I mean, obviously he started his career with the Jets, but then we saw him on the Panthers.
Yeah.
Those were dominant wins for the Bucs,
That's
typically. Right. But then he revived his career with the well, he went to San Fran as a backup, but then revived his career with the Vikings. Is that more Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, or has Sam Darnold truly turned a new leaf? We'll kind of see with Seattle, especially because the Vikings said, we're not going to pay you. We're going to go with a rookie quarterback that was injured in our first year. So, I don't know. It's weird. There's a couple teams where it's just kind of odd. Like the Jets, not really sure. The 49ers, Seahawks,
Cardinals. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Then, so to me, you mentioned that 4-game losing streak this team has unfortunately had the last 2 years, right? Well, where could that be? To me, it is the Eagles through the Lions, that stretch right there, because that's typically when it starts, right? For whatever reason, the Buccaneers have started off, 3-1, whatever. So this is maybe a week earlier, but that's where the danger zone is for me, is the Eagles. I think it's a winnable game. It's at home. They're not afraid of Philly, but Philly is a very, very talented football team. Let's not forget, A.J. Brown hasn't played in the last 2 games against the Buccaneers, right? So that's helped Tampa Bay for sure. So then you've got the Eagles. The reason I'm putting Seattle there is that is the furthest road trip for any fan, and the furthest flying trip for any Buccaneer team, right? Is from Tampa, Florida, all the way catty corner across the country up there to Seattle. So there's that. Then you come home and you face the 49ers. The bad news is the Buccaneers have lost 3 straight to the 49ers. The good news is the margin has slightly diminished each time. And, of course, San Francisco won at the last second on a field goal when the Bucs defense couldn't get off the field, couldn't get a stop. So maybe there's some hope that the 4th time's a charm. I don't know what to make of San Francisco. They lost a lot of really talented players, but more of like name players. Josh Capo and I kind of went back and forth in our PR group chat a couple months ago about it. And he just about convinced me, no, the 49ers can actually be pretty good this year, despite some of the losing of their big names like Dre Greenlaw and Deebo Samuel and all that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a big year for Shanahan, coming off of a down year where they didn't make the playoffs. Very disappointing season. So, he's going to feel some heat a little bit if he doesn't get a winning record this season. So I'm not sure what to expect from the 49ers, but I think that's part of that stretch we're talking about there. And then when you look at that next game, the Detroit Lions, I think that's the 4th and final one. Again, it is a primetime game. It's on Monday Night Football. The Bucs got the best of the Lions the last time up in Detroit. That was probably one of the Bucs' best wins of the year. Chris Godwin had a big day. Baker Mayfield had a rushing touchdown on a quarterback quarterback run. The Bucs held the high-flying Lions offense to under 20 points, winning 20-16. And so to me, I don't think that the Bucs fear the Lions anymore. The Lions are going to want payback. It's going to be on Monday Night Football. It's going to be a loud, raucous environment. So to me, Matt, this game against the Lions, if they don't win in Houston, I think it becomes a little bit harder, a little bit more problematic for the Buccaneers, because then the narrative is, still can't win in primetime. You lost in week 2. Now here's another Monday Night Football game. Then it starts to kind of creep in your head a little bit. And I hope that's not the case for the Buccaneers. Hope they just end the conversation with the week 2 win in Houston, right? Yeah. Do you kind of feel the same way?
As far as kind of gaining the respect of the league and people believing in the Bucs, they have to win those first 2 primetime games.
Yeah.
Or at least if they're going to lose the first one, win against the Lions convincingly. And that's not easy to do by any means. The biggest thing to me in this matchup, as far as we're talking about this in May, with this matchup being months and months from now, is as difficult as the Lions are. And yes, the Bucs held them to a little amount of points in that game.
Yeah.
It's a big factor now. No Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions. He's now the Bears head coach. And no Aaron Glenn on the defensive side for the Lions. He's now the Jets head coach. They will see Aaron Glenn during the season. But how does that Lions offense look now without Ben Johnson, who's been a creative genius and all of these amazing things that he's done? Now, they still have a kick-ass running game. Amon-Ra St. Brown has given the Bucs fits. And that's where someone like Jacob Parrish may, be big time, in that type of matchup. And they exercised the demon beating the Lions last season, but I still don't. I wouldn't say the Bucs have the Lions number.
No, I agree.
Anything like that.
Yeah, it's just they're not afraid of him anymore. It feels like more of a fair
seeing
fight.
Is believing, and that's why, like, to me, the 49ers like almost just as much of a threat as some of these other teams, because the 49ers just keep beating the Bucs regardless of the situation.
That's right. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. One thing that will absolutely, kick your ass is a trip to Walk-Ons, because you're going to be wowed by all the food and the drinks and the drink specials and the happy hour. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. But here's that guy, Drew Brees, talking about Walk-Ons.
Game day at Walk-Ons is just different. And it starts with the way our teammates prep each dish from our scratch menu. No shortcuts. We are hand cutting every single mozzarella log straight from the block. Hand peeling, stuffing, and bacon wrapping each voodoo shrimp. Hand carving ribeyes for our steaks and po' boys. And hand slicing, then tossing our boneless wings in our house-made sauces. With wall-to-wall TVs and food like this, why would you want to watch anywhere else? That's game day. The Walk-Ons way.
I think Drew Brees is a Bucs fan now, Matt. What do you think? I mean, they gave him the walk-off loss and ended his career. Yeah, if you can't beat him, join him. He's helping Pewter Report, a Bucs, website and podcast here. I like it. So listen, whether you like Drew Brees or not, they've got some tremendous happy hour specials. You're not going to find a better happy hour in Tampa Bay. Monday, 3 p.m. to close. Friday, 3 p.m. to 6. Wednesday and Thursday. So tomorrow's Thursday. You're going to have 2 happy hours to choose from, 3 to 6 or 9 to close. And if you miss Tuesday's happy hour, well, shame on you. But good news is there's a Tuesday next week and the week after that. And it's all-day happy hour plus $5 Tito's. Here's what you could enjoy. $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines, $5.49 gets you the 22-ounce domestic drafts, $4, folks. That's it, $4 for some of the best hush puppies you'll have, or the onion rings, which are fantastic. $7 will get you the Boom Boom shrimp or a half order of the waffle cheese fries. Or Ashley and I, our favorite, the spinach and artichoke dip. Fantastic. And I don't like spinach and artichoke dip, but it's the best there. $8, the boneless wings or the cheeseburger sliders, my favorite thing on the menu. They fill me up. They're that big. They're not like these little teeny patties. 3 of them, you can make a whole burger. Eat like a winner, drink like a champ at Walk-Ons. 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area to serve you. Midtown Tampa, down there by Matt Matera, Wesley Chapel up here by my neck of the woods, and Lakeland. So if you have not visited Walk-Ons, you're missing out. Make sure you get there and get some of their delicious food and drinks during happy hour.
So their bye week is right in the middle.
Yep.
So New Orleans should be a win. I think we're all in agreement there. But
hold on. What makes you say that, Matt?
I don't know. Just no quarterback, retirement, a couple of talented players, but terrible salary cap situation. If the Bucs don't sweep the Saints, that's a disappointment.
Would it be that 50 burger that that was dropped on them last year?
Very much could be.
Would it be that crushing loss that got Mike Evans the record?
Well, that game was actually pretty close.
It was, yeah. That's what I mean, a crushing loss, because it was there for the Saints taking, believe it or not, but Bucs pulled it out.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it funny, right? Like, we laughed when Michael Penix Jr. got drafted.
Yeah.
So early. And then it was like, maybe it wasn't the worst idea.
Right.
And then the Saints, it's like, why are you drafting Shuck in round 2? And then a couple of weeks later, Derek Carr retires, and now he's essentially your top guy. But as far as the entire NFC South, the Bucs, I don't think should be worse than. They got to sweep at least 2 of these teams.
Yeah,
they got to be 5-1. I think no worse than 5-1. I know it's high expectations, but This should be a good team.
I'm with you, Matt. If you're going to level up and be a serious, legitimate NFC threat, meaning there's a decent chance you can get to the NFC Championship game. Like if you're that caliber of team, and I believe this team has the potential to be that this year with the rookies that they added, with everybody from last year having a year's worth of experience. All of their second-year players from last year are now third-year players. This feels like this should be the year where they step on the gas and get there. And Todd Bowles even said it at the NFL annual meeting. You were there. I was there to hear it. They want to win the division, not in week 18, not in week 17. Win it earlier, kind of like what you were saying on the podcast the other day, Matt. Yeah. Be like the New England Patriots. If you're going to dominate the division, wrap it up by 1st of December, right? Not that you go into coast mode by any means, but you finish with 13 wins. You finish with 14 wins, right? That should be this team's mentality is just no midseason slump, foot on the gas the entire season, and try to get this division wrapped up as soon as possible, because it is possible that, and I know that the NFC South, the NFL likes to jumble all the divisions and stick them towards the end of the season, but it is possible that the Saints will be just done by the start of December, to where that Saints game on December 7th is inconsequential for New Orleans, and it just means another notch in the belt for Tampa Bay if they handle business. And the same with the Falcons. It might be a thing where if Tampa Bay jumps out to enough of a lead, those two games against the Carolina Panthers might not really mean anything for the division.
Yeah, it'd be more for seeding than anything else.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Which I would love for the Buccaneers to be in this situation, because the last time the Bucs had that, oddly enough, was Tom Brady's last season, where they were 8-8 at the time, and it was okay. Well, it was actually Kyle Trask's debut. It was like, oh, well, they shouldn't play Tom Brady, and Brady ended up playing, essentially 3 quarters. And then Kyle Trask came in, and they lost the game, but. The last time they had a situation where it was like, do you play the starters? Do you not play the starters?
Yeah.
Was when they ended up going 8-9. And I finally just thought of it, because I was thinking, because the Bucs are 50th year, they're going to wear the creamsicle jerseys. When should they wear the creamsicle jerseys? And the game I've landed on, and they could wear it more than once, and they could do some road jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
The one issue is that it's kind of later in the season, and I don't know if the Bucs would want to wait that long. But if you want, essentially, to see the Bucs win in the creamsicle uniforms,
that Saints game,
you got to wear them against the New Orleans Saints. I would even say maybe the Jets, but that's their first home game.
Right.
It's in September.
It won't be that one. Yeah.
And so it's the NFL. Like, anybody can beat anyone, really. Yeah. But maybe that Patriots game, you could do it then. It's in November.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just wear it for both Saints games. Wear the white creamsicle, the white jerseys with the creamsicle pants at New Orleans, and then when they host New Orleans, you wear the regular creamsicle. That would be my suggestion for the Bucs.
Yeah, no, I like that. The other thing was, in the Pewter Report roundtable, we talked about which game had to be in prime time.
Yeah,
and I said the Dolphins game, and I wanted that on a Thursday night game because it is the Bucs typically play on the road. This year they're not. They're finally playing a home game on Thursday night, but that would be a close proximity game. Like last year, it was a road game to Atlanta. No surprise that Atlanta is the Thursday night game this year, right? Because the NFL, I think, wants to keep it somewhat regional if they can.
Yeah.
During those times, but what about that game? What about creamsicles on Thursday night in prime time?
I thought about that too. That would be cool, especially with the Dolphins, lighter colors as well.
Well, no, that can't happen, right? But what I'm saying is I proposed that. I said let's see against the Dolphins.
The primetime game.
Yeah, in on Thursday night, but instead it's going to be the Falcons. So why not the Falcons again on Thursday night? There's some jeopardy there, right? Because you might lose that game, and then the curse of the creamsicles continues. And if you believe that, then you don't want that, right? But gosh, I mean, for the nation,
we haven't seen the Bucs play in creamsicle. We haven't seen the Bucs play in creamsicle on a nationally televised game.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. So you it's 2 wrongs with the Bucs not winning in primetime and not winning in Creamsicle.
Yeah.
I know 2 wrongs don't make a right, but in this case, maybe it does. You kind of bounce the curses off each other, and they go to another team or whatever the case may be. I wouldn't hate that either, but you got to win in them. You got to win.
I know. So this would be interesting. Wasp brings this up. White tops, orange pants, right? We've talked about this before. The NFL this year said that teams can wear alternate jerseys up to 4 times. So what if during the 50th year, the Buccaneers celebrate the orange jerseys and white pant combo like they have the last couple of years in the throwback game, and then flip it and have the white tops and orange pants maybe for a road game?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
I think that would be very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's the 50th year. They can
celebrating
all of the Bucs. Obviously, they've had a lot of history and winning 2 Super Bowls over the last, 20 somewhat years. But people like the cream. I know some people don't like the Creamsicle, but the Creamsicle, I think overall,
I like it once a year.
With the NFL, I think it's fine a couple times a year. Throw in a pewter jersey.
Yeah,
if
please.
Want, I wouldn't mind that either.
Pewter jersey. All right, Matt, let me ask you this. Are you upset that the Falcons actually have one more primetime game than the Buccaneers? Like, what is it about Atlanta? They didn't win the division. The Falcons, they choked again. They lost at home against the Panthers in their last game of the year. But is Michael Penix enough of a star? Is Bijan Robinson enough of a star for the Falcons to get 5 primetime games? I mean, the Chiefs had the most, shocker, right? With Patrick Mahomes. They have 7. Then the Eagles, Super Bowl champions, they have 6. And then you get the Falcons and the Packers. I understand the Packers because Packers, they're just like one of those legendary blue blood teams, right? Their fan base just goes back to Titletown. But the Falcons and the Packers are the only teams that have 5 primetime games. Then you've got a bunch of teams, Ravens, Bears, that's interesting, Dolphins, Steelers, Rams, and Buccaneers, all with 4 primetime games. I take that back. There are a couple of others. The 49ers and Lions also, and so do the Bills. They have 5 as well. And the Cowboys have 6 primetime games because they're Dallas. So I forgot those. But you know what I'm saying? Like, are the Falcons in the same class as the 49ers, the Bills, the Lions, and the Packers? I mean,
no,
I think so.
I think if anything, it's the intrigue of essentially a rookie quarterback. I know it's a second-year quarterback, but it's the intrigue of a team that some think can win the division. A rookie quarterback. Some of it's kind of like the disarray too, where what if Kirk Cousins has to end up playing or whatever the case may be. Michael Penix was one of the top draft picks last year. He didn't get to play until the end. So it's more of the intrigue and the mystique. Their first one is against Minnesota. The Buffalo game makes sense. I was looking up to see who their opponents are because sometimes they might just want to see the other opponent more than the Falcons themselves. So like a Monday game against Buffalo, I think that's just as much to do with Josh Allen. But then the following week, they're on Sunday Night Football against the 49ers. That's kind of an interesting one. And then they have that game in Germany. So that's more of just an international than like, hey, let's put them up for the world to see. So
let me ask you this, Matt. And Brian S. brings this question up here, or this point, and I'll ask you a question. The Falcons lost to the Panthers in Week 18 with everything on the line. Carolina is better than Atlanta this year, according to Brian S. Canales has them headed in the right direction. I'm not saying that they are better, that the Panthers are better than the Falcons, but would you be surprised if at the end of the season, would you be surprised? Like, in other words, is there a chance that the Panthers might actually have a better record than the Falcons? And I don't know what the record would be. I don't know if it would be 8 wins versus 7 or 9 wins versus 8, but would you be surprised if that happened?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. And we've all seen with Dave Canales when he was in Tampa and then what he did with Carolina. Last year, he didn't have the talent, but he still found a way to win at the end of the year, or at least be competitive at the end of the year. And now they got Ted McMillan. He's gotten a lot more out of Bryce Young than I think a lot of people would have expected. I don't think Carolina is going to make the playoffs, but I also do believe that they're going to be
They're going to be
thorn
gunning
in the
for number
side
2.
of the they're going to be a
Yeah.
thorn in the side of the Bucs. Now the Bucs still should beat them twice, maybe split with them 1-1, but if this team buys into the energy that Dave Canales has, and let's remember, Dave Canales revived Geno Smith's career.
That's
He
right.
helped Baker Mayfield
Yep.
be what Baker Mayfield is
Sure
now. And then
did.
he goes to Carolina, and again, they got better at the end of the year. They're in a much better spot now than they were a year ago when Dave Canales took over the team. So I have no doubts that Carolina can be a team that last year you go, oh, that's an easy win. Forget about it. Now it's like, okay, they're gonna give the Bucs a test. So I would not be surprised if Carolina has a better record than the Falcons.
I'm with you on that. I think you're spot on. Yeah, we talked about the Patriots a little bit, and we've certainly talked about the Saints and the bye week. The Buffalo Bills. This is kind of one of those litmus test games, right? This is a measuring stick game. And if the Buccaneers are having the season everybody wants and thinks and expects them to have, which means they're coming out of the bye week, they have a winning record. They beat the Patriots at home. Now it's a trip to Buffalo to play the Bills, right? Josh Allen and the Bills. This is, I think, a game that Tampa Bay is really going to be up for because they know what Josh Allen is. He's the NFL MVP. He is, how many Super Bowls would this guy have if not for Patrick Mahomes, right?
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be him and Lamar, but he's won a lot of those matchups against Lamar. Yeah.
I know.
Or
It's
maybe he'd lose 4 in a row.
Maybe he would. Yeah. But this, I think, is one of those games, right? We remember how it ended last time. The Bucs really had no business having it come down to a Hail Mary, but they poured it on after a disastrous start in that game. And as we see here, who was that getting mugged? It was that
Chris Godwin.
Well, Godwin was getting held. Was that Kate Otten?
I think it was. Yeah, because he's barehanded. That was Kate Otten.
Yeah, that's Kate Otten getting absolutely accosted right there. That's a crime. That's assault right there. It's kidnapping is what it is. You have 2 Bills. They're kidnapping Kate Otten right there on national TV. That was a Thursday night game. And then you see Chris Godwin getting tackled. The Bills defender's head not looking for the ball whatsoever. So that was one of those Hail Mary plays where they swallow the whistle and all that stuff. But, Godwin just about had it, and that would have been the game-winning catch.
That would have been incredible. The last 2 years, or the last 2 times, that the Bucs have played the Bills, there's not like a rivalry, but it's been entertaining games. It was 2021 when the Bucs were blowing out the Bills, but then the Bills came back. But the walk-off touchdown pass from Tom Brady to Rashad Perriman, who took it the rest of the way, and then this Hail Mary. So if it lives up to the last 2 games, it's going to at least be very, very entertaining.
I agree. That's great commentary, Matt. Then you and I are both in agreement about the Cardinals. But before that, the LA Rams out there in LA. This is a far different team than when they last played the Rams, which, if my memory serves, was 2021. Is that right?
The last time they
or was it 2022?
I think it was 21 because the last time I want to say they played the Rams was when they wore. Oh, what was Gronk's last year? 21?
Yeah, that was 21.
Yeah, so it had to be 20. I think it was that divisional game. Yeah.
Well, they lost out there, and then they played the Rams again, if my memory is serving me correctly here. But regardless, last time they played the Rams, there was a lot of Buccaneers in this picture who weren't on the team anymore, right? Ndamukong Suh, Nacho, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. And then you look at the Rams, Cooper Kupp, the guy that helped seal the Bucs' fate. No longer there.
They'll actually see him in Seattle.
Yeah, they'll see him in Seattle as a Seahawk. You're right. And no Aaron Donald, right? I mean, the Rams defense got remarkably better, I think, overall with some of their draft picks. They have Jared Verse. They've got the other Florida State defensive tackle, Braden Fisk. Yeah. So they've kind of reloaded pretty quickly on the defensive side. And this is a Sunday night game that is going to be a humdinger out there. And this might be one of those games where kind of a measuring stick in the NFC. Also, probably going to come down to playoff seeding. This might be a tiebreaker game, kind of around what is that? That's the 23rd. of
Yeah.
November there.
That's week 12. Yeah, it would have been better for the Bucs to play them earlier in
I
the
agree.
year. The Rams are
I
talking
agree.
about because the Rams are one of those teams. They start out slow,
Yeah.
but then right around that time when they play the Bucs is when they kind of put it all together and make a run. So not the best timing, but hey, yeah, they don't make the schedule.
Yep. Meets McGee with the $2 super chat. Thanks so much for being a Pewter Report TV channel member. He says they must stop playing down to their opponents.
That's true.
I agree.
They do play up to their opponents too.
Yep.
So it's very odd. But yeah, like again, the Saints game was close at the when Mike Evans got over 1,000 yards. They almost lost to the Panthers in overtime and they lost to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But then they also went and beat the Chargers and they beat the Lions. So you can never get too comfortable with the Bucs. At least when Todd Bowles has been the head coach. You can never get that comfortable.
That's right.
Because as soon as you think you have the Bucs figured out, they go and do something either ridiculous or amazing. And hopefully it's the latter.
I'm with you on that. Then we talked about the Cardinals. Who knows, what they're going to be like. And then the Saints. And then they're going to finish here in the NFC South. We talked about those teams. The one team we haven't really talked about is the Dolphins, right? And that's that kind of odd. It's like you're in NFC South mode for basically 6 straight weeks, except for week 17, because you have a trip down to South Beach to play the Dolphins. And if we're being honest, and I'm not saying this with any malice or any dark humor, I'm being legit here. I don't know if Tua is going to make it to week 17, just given his history of concussions, and I hope he does for his sake.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy keeps playing, but at some point in time, I mean, it happened to Luke Kuechly, right? So that one dinger, the last dinger is the last dinger, and you're done. And with Kuechly, I'm not sure if it was the doctors that advised him or he just said, "Hey, I'm done, man. I've hit my head way too many times on too many helmets, and I'm done." But I don't know. The Dolphins could be right in the thick of it in the AFC, or they could be on their backup quarterback, and Tua could be in street clothes on the sidelines. For all I know, I just don't know.
Yeah, they drafted Quinn Ewers this year, I believe. So he might be the backup. It's interesting with the Dolphins because I do like Mike McDaniel, the coach, but the Dolphins are also a team that they beat. The Dolphins are a team like they beat the opponents that they should, but anytime it's a big time game, like when they go up against the Bills and Josh Allen, they usually fold. So that could help the Bucs. Also, the Dolphins do seem like a team that will kind of just quit on themselves. Like if Tyreek Hill is like, I'm not feeling this, and or he gets injured, or Waddle gets injured, they're not a team that seems like mentally tough. Like when the going gets tough, they're the anti-Bucs, and ironically, with them all playing in the state of Florida. So if the Dolphins are knocked out, this is more of a winnable game. Knocked out of like the playoff contention, things like that. It's way more of a winnable game. Yeah, we have the super chat from J5 Studios. Thank you for the $5. Speculation time. When is the Creamsicle game? We talked about it before. Yeah. The best time the best game for the Creamsicle game would be playing against the Saints. But that game's not until December, and you don't know if the Bucs want to wait that long to dole out the Creamsicle. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you look for what on paper seems to be the more likely winnable game, and you go there to just end that creamsicle curse or whatever's happening to affect the outcome of the game when they have the Bucco Bruce on their helmet. So yeah, that's the schedule right there, folks. I think it's a favorable schedule. I like the fact that the bye week is kind of right smack dab in the middle. It's going to help this team. It's going to give them a little bit of a an oasis in the desert, right? It's something to kind of play for, and then you have enough juice to play that second game stretch there. And listen, hey Matt, who knows if they have another 50 burger in New Orleans the week before the bye week, you might be seeing some people starting the bye week a little early, right? We might see some backups in that game. Yeah. And
rest time.
Yeah, and we might see Kyle Trask take the field for extended play, maybe a quarter or two. And then not to take anyone lightly, but then you open up against the Patriots. So whatever happens in that 4-game stretch we talked about between the Eagles, the Seahawks, just really because of the road trip, and who knows how the Seahawks are going to be, but then the 49ers at home, who've been kind of the bugaboo for this team, and then that Monday Night Football game up there in Detroit, you at least have a little bit of a chance for a reprieve, right? When you go to New Orleans, and at least if calamity happens and you lose some of those games that maybe you shouldn't have, maybe you get that feel-good win heading into the bye week, Matt.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I think the floor for the Bucs is 4-4 going into the bye, but there's also a situation where they could be, 6-2 going into the bye.
Yeah.
And then with a much more favorable back half of the schedule, weather the storm of the first half and weather the Buffalo Bills-Rams game, and the Bucs should have double digits and hopefully one more than they did the year before.
Yeah.
We got a late super chat from Tall Florida Guy. Thanks for the $4.99.
Yeah.
Says Dean won't make it to that Dolphins game, will he? Damn.
Yeah. I mean, will he be able to play in that game? He might be if he's back from an injury, right? But I mean, just given his history, I don't know that Jamel Dean's going to go all of those games, 16 games, 15 games, both, straight without getting injured. But if Morrison ends up being the starter, Jamel Dean might step in as an injury replacement. Who knows? So I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on Jamel Dean. I'm kind of rooting for the guy because when he is focused and on the field, he's a pretty good player. Yes, he's got to catch the ball. There's no doubt about it. I'm also rooting for Benjamin Morrison. He's a great story, great kid.
Yeah.
May the best man win. Again, as I've said before, I'll say it again. Benjamin Morrison is going to push Jamel Dean towards greatness or push him to the bench. And either way, the Buccaneers win.
Bucs are in a much better spot with their corners this season.
Yeah.
Whether it's Morrison, Parrish, Bryce Hall being healthy and hopefully not getting hurt the first game of the season, they're in a much, much better spot with that position specifically.
Yep. We've had a lot of fun breaking down the schedule. I think it's a good schedule. I'm going to put together some more thoughts, and I'll have a Pewter Pulse tomorrow on some additional insight that I'll have. And then tomorrow, we're going to have Adam Slavan's opinion with Matt Matera. We're going to really kind of dive into the records of the Buccaneers in primetime on Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night, et cetera. And can the Bucs finally win in primetime? That's going to be key, because if they can't do that, if they go 0 again or 1-3 in those primetime games, it's not going to bode well for this team in the playoffs, because the playoffs more often than not are at night. Last time I checked, every Super Bowl is a night game. So if you have those type of aspirations, you need to be able to win in primetime. The Bucs are going to have that opportunity right off the bat in week 2 at Houston. Here's the primetime lineup again. At Houston, Monday Night Football. At Detroit, Monday Night Football. Those are both games before the bye week. And then after the bye week, you've got the Rams on Sunday Night Football out there in LA. And then the lone home primetime game, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, all the way in week 15. It's the rematch against the Falcons, who the Bucs will start the season against in week 1 in Atlanta. And we will be there. And we're looking forward to it. This is a really fun schedule. I like it. I don't think that there's an advantage or a disadvantage to it. I think it's pretty balanced. Only 5 playoff games this year, and only one of those playoff teams at home, and that's the Eagles. All of the other playoff teams that they'll face, the other 4, are going to be on the road. So we'll see how they shake out against some of the top competition. And of course, there's a team, as you mentioned, Matt, the 49ers, that have had the Bucs numbered. They make the playoffs last year. They'll be coming back for vengeance, and we'll see if the Bucs can finally stop their 3-game losing streak to San Francisco.
That's right. So in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. Our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment as well. That's going to do it for us tonight. Tomorrow we're back at 4 o'clock. So for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.